Everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video. I'm here with the real deal Aiel and Michaela from Twitter of Time, and we're going to talk about episode 7 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. Now, this is a parent's guide, so we're just going to talk about certain elements that happen within the show itself, and you can make your own decisions whether or not you like your kids to watch. I know everybody's a little bit different. We're going to do this in 2 parts. The first part will be completely spoiler-free, so we'll talk about things in a very general sense. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, you're not going to be ruined, and you won't basically know what's going on. Then we'll do a spoiler warning right in the middle, and then after that we'll talk about the scenes in a little more detail with reference to the actual show itself. So we'll be spoiling things then. Alright, so this episode opens, and again we'll talk about this in the spoiler section a little bit more, but probably with the best cold open I've ever seen of any episode of any show ever. Like, it was just absolutely phenomenal.
I think you know that I am in agreement. Yes, absolutely. There's blood, there's slashing. I don't think there's guts. I don't think there's any intestinal stuff, but we definitely have some blood. And a particularly disturbing moment. Hopefully this isn't too much of a spoiler. A pregnant person is stabbed. But the baby is unharmed, which is good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and there's a few deaths that are a little gruesome, I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, they're being killed in a fashion that's showcased. I would say reminiscent of John Wick or 100% probably John Wick type deaths.
That's a really fair comparison. Yeah, John Wick is probably a really good, probably very fair comparison.
But great.
And it's awesome.
It's awesome.
I watched it, then I rewound it, and I watched it again. Both my kids have seen it, and they rewound it and watched it again. I mean, I'm not saying do what I do. I'm just saying I did it. So
there you go. So again, so we have some violence. There is fighting. There is bloodshed. A few deaths on screen. All done in a very over-the-top, fantastic action sequence. And really cool. Yes. Just delightful. So just before we order that, and the next part, actually really the only other thing I want to mention in this episode at all is pretty much the second scene. It's almost directly after the opening credits. It's a little bit frightening. There's a couple of jump scares. It's ominous, suspenseful, I guess is the best way to put it.
Suspenseful is a really good way to put it, and again, the payoff I feel like is worth it. Like, I didn't skip anything for my kids in that scene because I think the ending, when the characters leave that particular setting, that payoff is so high. In how they get out. So I don't want to say I recommend watching it with your kids, but I think it was worth, for me as a parent, it was worth getting through the scary parts for that payoff.
Yeah, because then they see everybody's okay, essentially. Right.
Yeah, and the way that they get out is pretty cool. So.
All right, so that's pretty much it for the whole episode. Everything else in the episode is fairly tame. Nothing I would even have mentioned. Nope. It's just those 2 scenes, and they all happen within the first 5 minutes of the show. After that, it's pretty much smooth sailing for the rest of the episode. So I guess now we'll get into the spoiler section. So for those of you who haven't seen the episode yet, maybe dip out, go watch episode 7. It's fantastic. It's my favorite one so far, actually. And then we'll now get into the spoiler section. So, spoiler warning. We're now going to talk about certain scenes and elements of episode 7 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show that will ruin plot points and character arcs. So if you haven't seen that episode yet, be forewarned, we're probably going to ruin it for you. Alright, so opening scene, blood snow. Phenomenal. Don't know what else to say other than that. I know we're supposed to be maybe not saying how awesome the violence is, but it was awesome. It really was.
Have been waiting, John, you know this, as long as we have known each other, going on like 3 years now. I have been waiting for this moment in television, like salivating in front of my computer screen, and it did not disappoint. I was so excited. I was literally in tears getting to see the first maiden come to life. She was perfect. I mean, she was absolutely fantastic, and they really did a great job treading that line between choreographed fighting that looks cool but doesn't look ridiculous.
Yes,
if that makes sense. Something we talked about before is how so many times choreographed fighting, you want it to look cool. That's the point. It's entertainment, right? It's devised to be entertained. You want the audience to think, wow, that looks awesome. But so often when that's done, it also looks ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
like particularly
right. Like, I train a combat sport, and I can watch something sometimes and be like, oh my God, like there's literally no world we're in that would ever work. But there was no point during this choreography that happened for me. I was never pulled out of the moment. And in fact, at the very end, when Tigraine is disarmed, she does some really good jujitsu. I will have you know.
Oh, very good. I know nothing about jujitsu at all.
Well, we'll have to do a whole episode on breaking down Tigraine's jujitsu moves.
Exactly what she did and when, and then you could teach people how to do them.
Yeah, I could do that. We could do that. That would be so fun.
That would be fun. But, you know, amazing scene, and I said it earlier, like John Wick, very reminiscent of John Wick, so realistic, but very showy and amazing. Like, I thought it was really great.
Just unbelievable demonstration of athleticism from the stunt woman who plays Tigraine. Just, I really hope she's setting the bar and she's setting the standard, and we're going to get to see more of that from the Aiel, because if that's what we're looking forward to, I could not be more excited to see them come to life.
Get 5 or 6 of them on the screen at once.
Oh my! Awesome. I'm sweating. I'm actively sweating just thinking about it. Okay.
All right. So the next scene we're going to talk about is the ways. So we go from Blood Snow through the opening credits right to the ways, and there's really only a couple of things in here. It's suspenseful. It's dark. It's a little scary, reminiscent of maybe Alien or a movie like that where they're walking the hallways and it's kind of dark and ominous. But you have.
You could even do, you could even, if your kids have seen Lord of the Rings, I would say.
Yeah, like More Lines of Moria.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Perfect. Yep. That's probably pretty close of an analogy. And, I made a comment a couple of weeks ago on Twitter that got a lot of retweets and a lot of likes. And I said something to the effect of, here in America, our kids are doing active shooter drills where they have to hide under their desks and pretend somebody is coming in to shoot them. They're not scared of Trollocs. And I maintain that, and I stand by that. There's something about the fantasy genre, I think, that lends itself very well to escapism, and that's why so many of us are so drawn to it. And because it is so fantastical, even though it looks realistic, it lacks that realism. Like, my kids are not scared of Machin Shin. They're not scared of the waves. They're not scared of Trollocs, because it's not real, and it's so fantastical. It is escapism, which is not to be critical of anybody who has a higher sensitivity level, be it a child or an adult. That's fine. But I think it does lend itself really well to that escapism. And, for me, I'd rather my kids get to experience some of these things and see Nynaeve.
Yes, when she went Super Saiyan, the big ball, the end protecting everybody, absolutely amazing. That was
in a world that
scene.
They can't learn about Nynaeve unless they see the ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I'm always talking about the payoff, like that's the word I use, is the payoff this, the payoff that. And that's really how I think of it. Like the payoff of getting to see Nynaeve, you have to understand the context that she's in. And I want to raise my kids to be Nynaeves. So, I
got 3 girls. They should all grow up that way.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, hey, buddy. Rory agrees. Look, he's here too.
He's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, the scenes, those are the only 2 scenes in this entire episode. Everything else is fairly tame and not even worth mentioning. So if your kids can sit through these 2 scenes, then they're great for the rest of the episode. Now, we're having the finale soon, so hopefully for the finale, and this is kind of a terrible thing to say, but I'm hoping the Parents Guide for the finale is a little bit longer.
I think so. Yeah, I hope so too. I hope we'll get some good breakdowns, some fun stuff.
So I want to thank you all very much for sticking with us here to the very end. Here's to many more.